Welcome back to the Win and In podcast. I'm your host, Max P, and joining me today, we have Hire from Playing with Power. What's going on, man?
What up?
Yeah, so fresh off a hell of a weekend, dude. The Fishbowl number 5 times now. And This was the biggest one ever by a mile, right?
Yeah.
278 people, I think.
I think we had 280 we had 296 players, and then we had a bunch of drop, and then we had 280 players start at the tournament, and 2 players got like deleted, I think, and that's what happened. But yeah, 280 players I think was the running total from the weekend. It's pretty crazy.
Crazy. And before we get into the madness that was that weekend, just for people who don't know who you are, I don't know who wouldn't know who you are, but just in case, you want to kind of introduce yourself and talk about how you ended up TOing one of the biggest cEDH tournaments in the country.
So my moniker is Hire. I've been playing Magic since 2009. I started playing cEDH in 2016. I currently create content for Magic the Gathering with a channel called Playing with Power. They are a cEDH gameplay channel. We do narrated content on cEDH. And then I create like shorts talking about like new commanders, cards that I think are really good that might be underappreciated. And then I do like deck techs.
Very nice. And we'll put links to all that stuff in the description below so you guys can go find them. But I mean, so I always like to ask this because it's always an interesting story for everyone and everyone's a little bit different. How did you end up making the transition from just regular Magic to cEDH?
I like to get good at things. So I think that's like a common trait that cEDH players have. They like to like get to the best of that thing. Commander is a really complicated format. And so I started playing Commander out of necessity because I played Standard and then my cards rotated out and I didn't want to rebuy into Standard. And so I was like, what other formats? There's Legacy. I heard that was a format. I was like, at the time there was Extended, but I was like, I'm not really trying to do this. Like, I don't want to buy 4 Volcanic Islands. Like, I can't afford this. And my friend's like, you should try Commander. And I was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is about. And I learned that I liked competitive Commander because of one game specifically. And I've talked about this before on another podcast, but I was playing Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, because I'm an elf guy till I die. And at the time, I was playing a 7-man pod. You heard that?
I'm sorry,
right?
You said 7. You said
7-man pod. Yeah, 7-man pod. And we were all it was just a casual night. We were just at a local bowling alley. We had a room in the back because my friend worked security at the bowling alley. And we were playing, and I had just gotten some new cards. And I put the cards in the deck. I was like, I can't wait to do these because these are weird cards. It's like these weird cards I want to play, like Phyrexian Soulgorger and Phyrexian Dreadnought. And these weird cards no one sees and plays with. And my friends just had them. And I was like, okay, can I use this? And they said, yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. So we're playing. And turn 1 for me was Land Dork, pass. Turn 2, Land Selvala, pass. As Selvala is known to do. Everyone else is like, land pass. Like it's that kind of pod.
Casual EDH, yep, sounds right.
I'm not thinking that my deck's crazy. I'm just thinking like, oh, my deck can do cool stuff. To put things in perspective, I was on Acidic Slime at the time. So I was like, make a ton of mana, play Acidic Slime, bounce Acidic Slime, recast it, like kill my opponent's lands, like Terrastodon people's lands away, right? Like that's all I was doing. It wasn't anything like competitive. It was just like casual degeneracy,
casual suffering.
Right?
Like, yeah.
And so on my turn 3, I played a land. I cast Phyrexian Dreadnought, and my opponents were like, okay, it's just gonna die. And I was like, yeah, but before it dies, I'm gonna tap Selvala for 12. I'm gonna draw a card and tap Selvala for 12. And they were like, it's turn 3. You have access to 15 mana. What's happening right now? And I was like, yeah, this deck does that. And anyways, I'm going to go and use this mana to cast the Lurking Predators in a 7-man pod. And like,
That's amazing.
I didn't realize like how fun that idea was going to be until it happened. And then I was like, this is all I want. This is all I want to do. I just want to do this shit all the time. Like, I never want to do anything else. So it hooked me like right then and there. I was like, competitive commander. That's what I want to be. That's where I want to go. And I just kind of rolled from there.
But it feels like we didn't just hear your origin story. It feels like that was the Big Flips origin story too, kind of.
Dude, Big Flips, yeah, for sure. I've always liked that. I've always liked putting big things into play for free. My first standard deck was Elves and Emerald. Shards of Alara was like my first set. And so right after that was when Eldrazi came out, and I was like, oh, you can Elvish Piper and Emrakul. Sure. I'm doing that. That's what I'm doing. I like that. And that's just always how I've like thought about playing Magic. I like these dumb idiots just coming out for no reason.
Yeah, just dropping them on the battlefield from nowhere. That sounds not too bad. I could do that. I could dig that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like it.
That's all started.
So you made your way into CEDH and then got into content creation, started doing all that, and then now all of a sudden you're the big TO. How did that happen? What?
Yeah. So I started TOing out of necessity, not really like I want to run tournaments one day. It was, California is a really hard place to run tournaments. It's just really expensive.
Right.
So like I got fortunate because the place that I started playing Magic at, TC's Rockets, was I just been going there for years. And they knew me, I knew them, and I hey guys, the community wants a tournament, a cEDH tournament, not just like because like all these LGSs like to run like cEDH, but they have these like wonky rules that they throw in to make sure other players can like keep up. I was like, I don't want those rules. I just want straight cEDH. Can you guys support me? And they said, yeah, we're down. We can definitely make this happen. We'll hold it here at the card store. And fortunately, they're the largest card shop in San Diego, so they have a massive playroom. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's make this happen. And we ran Fishbowl 1, and that was really successful. I think it was 72 players, and we were like, I was stoked. I was just trying to get to 64. We did it. I was like, that's great. And that was the big transition from me playing to me TOing.
Yeah, which is something because at least from the East Coast, we always had this perspective that West Coast events are harder to fill, and they tend to be a little bit smaller than what goes on the East Coast. So Fishbowl was kind of the premier event to sort of put the California meta together, or California cEDH community together, because I don't think there was anything else. I went to Silicon Dynasty 1 back in 23, but that was like the only event on the West Coast other than Fishbowl.
Yeah. And you're correct in that assumption. Like California, just players on the West Coast are less likely to do a thing that they don't know is gonna be great. It's like that's like a big FOMO. Like I don't want to miss it if it's gonna be great, but if it's gonna be mid, I don't really want to go.
Right. There's a thriving community though. I mean, there's a lot of SoCal, Magic players, or really good Magic players, but for whatever reason, other than the Fishbowl, nothing else has really gotten rolling, right? I mean,
I think, like I said, it's just expensive. It's really expensive. If I were to compare costs, like the same venue space that we paid for in San Diego would have been like less than $2,000 in Georgia or in some of the other states that have a lot of players, and it's a lot of like more inexpensive venue spaces. And like $2,000 venue space is fantastic. That's so good, right? That those savings can go into the player base. Like, oh, okay, we can now go from a 10K to a 15K or 20K with reasonably, like you could probably run like a successful 15K. Yeah, in let's say Atlanta for like 25 grand, which is a lot of money. I don't want to make that seem like that's not a lot of money, but 15K for 25 grand is a steal. That's so good. That's really, really good, right? where you're passing on all the savings you're getting from the venue space just to the players and still be profitable.
But much more expensive in San Diego for sure.
Yeah, I can't do that.
And for those who didn't go to Fishbowl, a lot of people went to Fishbowl, so a lot of people know what I'm talking about. But if you went to Fishbowl 5, right, the venue is fantastic. I mean, maybe one of the best cEDH venues I've ever experienced. I mean, like the closest to it I can think of is like, CCS down in Charlie's Collectible Card Show down in Atlanta, right? It's sort of another great venue, but this venue is fantastic because the way it was set up is you had the Hampton Inn, a pretty nice Hampton Inn. Not all Hampton Inns are great. This one was a very good one. So you had the hotel in the front, and then you walk behind the hotel, you cross a parking lot, like just a small parking lot, and there was like a Shriner Temple. Is that what it was? Like and they had this huge hall in the Shriner Temple where the cEDH was the event was set up. And unlike some events where you go to where they like you have this extra room where they're kind of overflowing people and stuffing people in, this was just one space. It was all cohesive. People weren't too crowded. There was room at every table. And it was just a really, really high quality cEDH space to really to jam in, and it fit everybody great.
It was just enough people, right? Like it felt full but not overwhelming, which is like. Thank God. Like if
yeah. I think if you had if you tried to squeeze like another 50 people in there, it might get a little tight, I think. But I mean, for what it was perfect. And then the best part, I almost forgot the best part was outside of the venue. Like you walk out of the hall, you're outside. There was like a food truck basically set up there. Both days. So
both days,
tacos,
and the food was good.
Burritos. I mean, it was good. It was legit. Like, decent. Like, you have to understand where I'm from. Like tacos, like suck.
Oh, sure.
Like so, just garbage. So like any San Diego taco is 10 times better than Washington D.C. taco. But it was the food was good. It was good. So
that was a big. Thanks. I appreciate like all the love. I feel like a lot of people really appreciated the work that we put into it to try and make it as accommodating as possible. But for me, the big thing was parking. That was like the number one sell. And like they had some weird construction project happening that was not, because we'd booked the place in like October. So that wasn't there. It was a full parking lot. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And even with like the parking being slightly diminished, there was still plenty of parking. Like we were able to get everyone where they needed to go. And I think for TOs, focusing on making sure each aspect of your venue is the best that you can make it, given the resources that you have available. And people will just appreciate it. Like I was hung up on tablecloths. Like I was like, oh man, we're not gonna have tablecloths. We're gonna have like a plastic thing that goes over it. Everyone's gonna hate it. Like they're gonna think this is so cheap. This is so terrible. And no one even cared. Like they just put their playmats down. We're playing Magic. Like I don't care what's happening as long as I have something, a surface to put my playmat on.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I first walked in, I saw the plastic tablecloths. I'm like, I hope my playmat doesn't like slide around and shit. And like I was worried about that. But then it was fine. I think they were taped down or something. So that you dropped the playmat on and stayed in place. You were good. It was fine. It was fine. It worked out.
Yeah. But the venue space was good. The Hampton Inn, shout out to them. They were amazing. And the Shriner, man, I was so stoked. There actually is a room upstairs. We had thought about using that as like you'd mentioned, like an overflow room, and then we were like, I don't think we need it, and like the players are gonna miss out on a lot of cool stuff that's happening downstairs. We don't want to separate anybody. Let's just keep it all together, and it worked out great.
I mean, I guess you could use that like in the future if you use the venue again. Maybe use it for like a streaming setup or something like that. Because that was one thing you didn't stream, right? And
so, no, the internet couldn't. We would need a hotspot because the internet couldn't support it.
Yeah, it's also a lot of work. Like that's a whole other level of it ends up being an expense too because you gotta have the equipment, you gotta have the people to do it. Like it's a lot of work. It's a whole other thing. I'd rather, as much as I love the stream, first of all I hate playing on stream, but I like when the tournament has a stream. But if it's a choice between having a stream and just putting all of that effort into just having a higher quality event, I think that's the way to go. And I think you got there.
Yeah, I think if I don't know, for me the thing I wanted but couldn't afford, again, running events in San Diego are expensive, is having like someone like mental misplay, Alan, there to like do like floor reporting. I thought that would be really cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, that's a great idea. So shout out to Alan. Hey Alan.
Yeah,
reach out to hire. Make it happen.
I was trying to make it happen, bro. I was doing everything I could.
Dude, I've seen him everywhere too. Like I mean, I went to Lisbon and there's Alan. I go like literally anywhere I go, there's Alan. Any CDH event, he just seems to be there. And he's great.
He's so good.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's some crazy story. What went wrong? Like what? Or anything go crazy that you had to deal with, or was everything smooth?
What went wrong? That's a good question. Honestly, nothing went wrong. I shouldn't say things went wrong, but things went unexpectedly long. So I don't know if there is anyone keeping like tabs on a record for the longest last turn in a tournament, but Fishbowl round 6 definitely has to be one of them, where we went 80 minutes on one stack. That was pretty brutal.
By the way, I think the record, I don't know the time record, but I know the record I think was at the Boil 2, and I'm pretty sure that the player in the round 6 pod, who was also the player in the Boil 2 pod. Yeah. Snaz. Yeah. Snaz horrific. So yeah. Shout out Snaz. What's up, man?
Shout out Snaz for making the most out of what he got. I think that was hard. I think after that happened, we had to install a timing rule for the last turn, because we ended up being in a position where if we had any more rounds go late like that, it would cost us an additional hundreds of dollars an hour for every hour that we went over. So it became a matter of, can we balance player experience and our fiscal responsibility? And so that was a bit of a challenge, but fortunately it didn't continue. Like we ended up getting out of there before our time expired, so that was fine. It worked out. But I think knowing the current format is really important for TOs. I think understanding that we're in a space where I don't know if you probably played during this time, but when Flash was legal, it felt a lot like how it feels now, where everyone is just not tapping out, playing value engine, passing, land, pass, land, pass, land, rock, pass, land, right? Everyone has very similar board states, and then when someone goes for it, everyone goes for it.
Right.
And they try to put the win on the stack, and people respond by putting their own win on the stack.
Yeah, and we're gonna dive into that a little bit too in a few minutes, because the draw meta is real. I think I was personally kind of in denial of how pervasive and problematic it is, and I think this past week it was a little bit of a wake up call for me. So we'll get into that in a few minutes, but how did that timing? What was that timing rule? Because I didn't actually hear how you set it up. Like what was So what we did is after that round, so round seven got hit with it, and then the playoffs, so the semifinals got hit with time. So we had a 3-hour time limit for semifinals, and then round 7 in last turn in round would end at 20 minutes, and active player at the end of 20 minutes, the player who had the highest life total would be declared the winner at the end of the 20 minutes. And there was a situation where we did hit time, and we did hit the end of the time extension thing, and there was a judge call about this because a player kept wanting to respond by doing a bunch of stuff, I want to take my time, I want to delay this because I have the highest life total, right? Right. And so the judge came and said, okay, we're time. And the active player said, I just want to end my turn. Last action, I want to end the turn. And the judge said, okay, that's the action you want to take.
Yes, I want to end the turn. Okay, end the turn, and the turn ended in a draw versus the turn ending because of time, meaning that the player with the highest life total didn't win. Everyone just got a point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to get my head around. Wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So if he hadn't have ended his turn, then the player with the highest life total would have won the game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Hard call.
Yeah.
I'm not an L3, so I don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, that's wild. I don't know that I love the whole life total thing just because I'm an ad nos player. And
that's fair.
I feel hated.
Yeah.
But I also understand that the whole problem, which is you got to find a way to, at some point, end these rounds. Mm-hmm. And these stacks get completely out of control at this point.
Yeah. There was a couple board states that were just unmanageable. It was like there was the game that took a really long time. There was 4 Smothering Tithes. 4 Smothering Tithes, 2 Ristics, a Mystic, and a Hullbreaker Horror. Every spell, there's 7 rounds of priority. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah. I think that in that scenario, what you do is you just declare everyone a loser.
Everybody loses here, bro.
I'm sorry. This board state is too terrible. Everyone loses.
Yeah. Just everyone gets -5 points. They don't even get 0 points. They get -5.
-5, right. Well, you get -1 point for every stupid value engine on the field. So 4 Smothering Tithes, that's -4 points. You got 2 Ristic Tithes, that's 6. And you got the Remora, that's 7, and then the Hullbreaker Horror is like 3 points, -3.
Max, you gotta start running tournaments, my guy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other cool thing was you guys had a tournament at midnight or like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. You ran like a mini tournament. Were you part of running that, or it just happened?
Nah, that's organic. Tell me about it.
Yeah, you didn't know that? So on Saturday night, after day 1, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, they ran another tournament in the hotel lobby, like LobbyCon tournament, and it actually was good for top deck points.
Oh, they had enough players. Sure.
Yeah, so it was like a bronze event. It ended up being a bronze event in the hotel lobby at 10 o'clock at night.
That's so cool. That's so cool, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that. Oh, I didn't know that. That's really
it was crazy.
That's really cool.
I was like, nah, I can't do this. It's too much. I need to sleep. I need my beauty rest. But a lot of people just stayed up and played. It was great.
Oh my gosh. Yo, I'm sick. So okay, here's the thing. I can't play in like my own event, but I definitely love the idea of players organizing enough to get another tournament, and I'd play in that. That sounds great. Oh my gosh, I'm a little sleepy, but that's fun.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
That's my only one regret, by the way. Was you and I only got to play like one game.
I know it was hard. It was hard, especially because your games tended to go long. Yeah, but next time, man.
Oh man, for me, every game was like a war. I felt like I was digging a tunnel with my fingernails. That's what it felt like. Like there was every single game with the time. I ended up with 4 draws, and really it would have been 5 draws if I think we could have forced a draw. And I was like, nah, someone's gotta win this game at some point. But I had fun. Games. But that's what I like to hear. You had fun. Yeah. By day 2, my brain was completely mush. I couldn't think anymore.
You're definitely a little sleepy sleeps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So is Fishbowl 6 coming? We're gonna do it.
Yeah. So Fishbowl San Diego will come again probably in December, I want to say. I've gotten some good feedback on good time slots, and December seems like a good time for that to happen. I don't know if that's for sure, but we will definitely have another iteration of this. The next iteration will be larger, I think. The idea here is that we want to grow every time. We also want to make sure that players get like their money's worth. Ultimately, we want to have I think the next one we want to have it be a 15K or nice. 20K. With the player cap hopefully getting hit at like 500. Wow. That's the goal. It's easier said than done. The biggest challenges for us is finding a bigger venue space. 500 players is a lot of players. Right. And I think that it's easy to get frustrated when you don't get like the ticket sales in time. But with this type of prize pool, and the timing of it is important. Like, people forget that the weekend before last was MagicCon Chicago. So players who would have come are like, I'm already tapped out, bro. Like, I just spent all this money in MagicCon Chicago, so I don't really have the funds to come to this event too. And so when we have our most successes, when we have just enough space between our event and a big, MagicCon event, that's where a lot of people end up spending their money to travel to go to.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're like me. You're a CEDH dad too, right? You got kids, so
yeah.
Kids. You can only travel so many times,
Like, I got one in me, bruh.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I get one every couple months, and that's it. I can't.
Yeah, man.
I can't. Some people, you see some people every weekend they're in a tournament. There's no way I can pull it off. I'll come home and I'll find an empty house and the lock's changed, and life's just gone. Poof.
Oof,
I can't pull it off.
Yeah, we got responsibility, balance, right? We have responsibilities. We have to manage those responsibilities.
Exactly. We gotta raise young cEDH players, and if we're not there, then it doesn't work. Yeah. So you were saying something about taking the Fishbowl and sort of, I say, franchising it, or like getting it out there beyond San Diego.
Yeah. So the biggest goal for the Fishbowl is to have it be a circuit, where we have different cities have their own Fishbowl, and the biggest call to action that I've experienced, especially after last weekend, is that TOs are struggling to figure out how to begin their own tournament, and they're struggling to find the process or refine the process so that they can do their event successfully and profitably. Mm-hmm. It's been my experience that most TOs don't make money on their events. So they'll have a very successful event. Maybe they sell out, but because of a bunch of different factors, they can't make income from it. And the goal for Fishbowl and the Fishbowl series is to always be profitable. Mm-hmm. Because if we can show that this is profitable, then it becomes easy to sell it to advertisers. Like, hey, this event happens. If you want to sponsor an event, there's a chance that you can make money on it too, and you don't have to do anything really. You'll get all the money you invest back plus a 10% return or whatever. So if somebody's interested in running a Fishbowl in their respective city, stay tuned. We will have more information about how to run an event successfully in your part of the country. This is unfortunately for United States only, because I've never ran an event outside of the United States, and I don't know if the same rules apply. But I do know how to run these events here in California, and would love to make other people whose dream it is to TO an event make those dreams come true, because I know it's possible.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so I hope people listening, make it happen. Especially, we're kind of in the post Top Deck era, where this is going to be probably the last championship invitational, and there was sort of, I almost call it the golden era of cEDH, where we had that first year where everyone was running the circuit as hard as they could and trying to qualify, and that really brought a lot of growth to the community, and that being gone is definitely a hole. So I think hopefully this kind of thing can create another circuit, another way for people to be into that. I really hope that this idea takes off and we see Fishbowl Washington DC.
That'd be sick.
The dream right there.
Fishbowl DC, that would be really cool.
Hell yeah. Oh my
god, yeah. Come on, Max.
Maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, you could do it.
I could.
I'm saying.
Yeah, we could talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it anyway. But yeah, so with that, kind of let's turn into this draw situation, because you mentioned that being a TO, it's really important to understand the meta, to understand what's going on with cEDH, so you can sort of predict the problems that are going to occur. The draw rate is at a whole other level right now. I think at the Fishbowl, we heard it was 31% of games ended in draws in the Swiss.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is wild, because when you think about it, it's a 4-person game. You're expected to win 1 out of 4 games, right? If 30% of those games are draws, you're not winning a lot of games. It's just really, really difficult.
Yeah. So the thing about mid-range is that there's a lot of interaction and there's a lot of triggers. And so what ends up happening, games get pushed to time. And there is because there's a lot of interaction, a play I saw a bunch of times is you have a game-winning spell on the stack. It can end the game right here, right now. I have a Pact of Negation in hand. I will lose the game in order for you to not win and this game end in a draw, because no one else has anything to. No one's going to win anytime soon, and we're about to run out of time. I'd like to put a draw on the stack, and everyone goes, "Okay, fine, yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, because you have no choice at that point, right?
You have no choice, right? And that's just like the nature of the beast right now, where people are packing enough interaction to slow the game. It's almost like stacks. Like yeah, right? Like people are playing so much interaction that it becomes its own stacks piece. And so
yeah, and you know, the thing I always talk about is it's gotten even worse in the sense that, you know, back in the day, it used to be the old days, and I mean like 6 months ago, before the bans, that the pattern was you try to resolve an abolisher, you try to resolve a silence, and then if you can do that, then you get your chance to win the game. You got to create those windows, find those windows to win. Now you cast your Grand Abolisher, and that's the point where everyone who's been sandbagging their flash enabler, a handful of cards and a bunch of mana, tried to win the game on top of you. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've found countless games where I've got my Grand Abolisher on the stack, and then there's 3 players trying to win on top of me. There's a 40 card stack on top of the Abolisher, and we go to time and ends up being a draw anyway. It just happens over and over and over again, and it's frustrating, it's infuriating, you know, but at the same time, it's the correct way to play given the situation right now. Like, if you can resolve a Rhystic Study and a Smothering Tithe, don't try to win the game, just sit there, right? Because you're going to draw that Valley Flood Caller at some point, right? And
I think at the Fishbowl, there was a really interesting stack where a person had a Grand Abolisher at the bottom of the stack, and what they did is they had a resolved breach, and they pacted their own Abolisher, and they had a Born upon a Win, the instant speed stuff, and they recasted the Abolisher back on top of the stack. And I was like, bro, this is not how this is supposed to be played. But good on you for figuring out a way to get this Abolisher to resolve. Like, it was just such.
That's where it's at right now. That's where it's at. Common thing. So I try to think about it like I think there are 4 different types of draws right now. The first one is just the regular old intentional draw, just like you have in 60 card, where, you know, all the players in the pod have good winning records, and they don't need the win to get into top 16, right? It's just not necessary. So at that point, they all shake hands, agree to a draw, and move on. And there's that one. And then the second one is just the natural go to time game, right? Where everyone's trying to win, everyone's playing the game, clock's ticking, nobody can force anything through, and eventually time runs out and it's a draw. There's that kind. Then there's the kind, you know, what we were just talking about, where you can force draws, where you get to that situation where you recognize there's an inflection point where one player has a win on the stack, another player has a win in hand that they've already, it's known to the table, they presented it, and you have the interaction to stop one but not both players. At which point you say, hey, king making situation, I propose a draw rather than king making, and you're forced to accept it at that point. Then there's the fourth kind, which is the kind I hate the most, which is you have a player who gets behind early and immediately begins playing for the draw at that point. And they start politicking, they start making plays all designed to force the draw at some point in the game, right? Long before the game's over, right? And all 4 of them are terrible in various different ways. But the biggest problem is just they sort of pile on top of each other, so you end up seeing them all in every tournament right now. And I don't think anyone's solved it yet. I don't think anyone's really found good answers to it. You know,
what do you think of the new point system, the wager system?
Yeah, so for those who haven't heard of it, it's how they do it in Japan. So they have the God of Commander tournaments in Japan, and what they do is they do like a wager system. So what happens is each player enters the tournament and they start with 1,000 points, and then every game they wager 7% of their point total into a pot, essentially, and the winner takes the pot. And if it's a draw, nobody gets anything. Everyone loses all the points that they wagered, which is interesting because you'd think on first thought that kind of incentivizes people to play to win more, and I think it does to some degree. But it also introduces a whole nother set of problems where you have things like people who have less wins make top 16 than players who have more wins, because the pots that they won were bigger than other players. So it twists things and creates other problems at the same time. But I haven't played in that system yet, so it's worth at least seeing what it's like, I guess. It
makes it so if it depends on how they do pairings, because if the way they pair is winners play winners, then those pods are worth significantly more if they're in a pod. Like, let's say we have we're in round 7 and where the top 4 players in the tournament are playing, that winner is like so much further ahead, and there's I think it really defines who's in first and who's in last really clearly, versus our current system where a person can, I think if you had 3 wins and 4 draws, there's a chance that you got into top 16 at Fishbowl.
If you get 3, if you got 3 wins is the gold standard basically for a 7-round tournament with 200-ish players, up to 300 players even. You need to get to 3 wins, period. You don't really need 4 wins. You just need 3 wins plus some number of draws, and you make top 16. It's just how that math works out, right? Yeah, and I think it'll work out totally different in the Japanese system.
Definitely. Especially if draws loses you points. That was something I had thought about, make it so that your draws were worth 0 points, but never the punish thing. That to me is fascinating. I also like the thing that you start off with 1,000 points and you can lose or gain points. That's really cool.
It's interesting. I've always been an opponent of the idea of doing 0-point draws, just because it creates this toxic king making situation that supplants the draw problem, right? Because you get to the point where you are incentivized to king make whoever has the highest win percentage at the table, because then that ups your opponent win percentage, which improves your tiebreakers. And that that kind of tournament math king making stuff is really unhealthy, I think.
People gonna grind.
Yeah. But I've thought of some ideas, some ways to do things better. My one idea is for the first problem, the ID problem, where people shake hands and agree to a draw. My feeling is, once you pass a certain threshold, in a 7-round tournament, you've got 4 wins, for example. There's no reason for you to have to play if you don't want to play. You should just be able to get your point. So at that point, you pull those people who've crossed that threshold out of the pairings pool, so that they don't get paired with people anymore, because you want all the pairings to be among people who actually want to play, right? You want to take the people who have no reason to play out of it, so that you don't have them anymore in that situation.
What do you think of after round 5, round 6 and 7 we repair? So it's people who have 15 points are paired with people who have 9 points.
Well, so Top Deck software's algorithm is trying to do that already. Especially in 6 and 7, they're trying to do a lot more pair downs. you know, which is good. But the problem is it's still just too easy to force a draw. So if you have one player, even one player in a pot of 4 who wants to draw, can often force a draw too easily.
Really?
So it's still a problem. Like it used to be, like originally when we first had this conversation back in the middle of last year, we were talking about the problem where you have 3 players who want to draw and 1 player who wants to play, and they get bullied into the draw at that point. So that's when they kind of adjusted the pairing software so that you don't have that situation anymore. But now the meta shifted where you have High Fate Trickster, Valley Flood Caller, Born Upon a Wind, Emergent Zone, and then all the draw engines. So it's just too easy right now to go just put a naked win attempt on the stack, and that's enough to force a draw, right? Because you're like, oh, this player's about to win. Well, here's my answer. I'll put a win attempt on the stack that I know everyone has answers for, but if we don't accept the draw, then they'll let it through. And that creates, it's just so easy to create these draw situations now.
Dang. That's why I don't play in tournaments, bro. This I just host them.
Yeah, it's when you play Lurking Predators, and go ahead, cast your spells.
Just play. Yeah, cast your spells, bro.
Yeah, it'll be fine. What could go wrong?
Yeah,
go wrong. So I don't know what the answers are, dude. I don't know how to fix it. And I really think fundamentally you got to kind of change the card pool a little bit. Like you have too many flash enablers, too many value engines. Like there has to be, and too much interaction, too much free interaction. So you can't have infinite of all those 3 things and expect people to be able to win games very often.
Yeah, I had talked to Ian, comedian, about where if I were to build a deck, what would be the things that I would be looking to do. And the first thing that I thought of was rule of law. Rule of law. Like Spirit of the Labyrinth and Rule of Law seem like really good cards. Narset, like these cards that just punish what people are trying to do right now, right? Oh, you have your value engine? Cool. You only get to draw 1 card. Chains of Mephistopheles. Like, you know, like, right? Like, I think that
Notion Thief.
Those are Notion Thief. Yeah, Notion Thief. Like, there's so many ways to punish this that people don't want to do because it's not how they want to play. Obviously, like Stacks isn't really fun for a lot of people. But that is how you answer mid-range. Like you.
Yeah. I'd love to see Wizards print draw hate that's actually good. You know what I mean? Because a lot of those draw hate cards are really bad for your opponents, but not very good for you. Yeah. So it kind of disincentivizes people from playing it because it doesn't advance your game plan, and that's really what people want to be doing. So I want to see effects that do both.
Yeah, you have to be really careful though, because like the second it is like a little too good, right? It's banned. Right? Like you can't, like Hull Breacher is a good example.
Free Hull Breacher.
Right?
Free
like
Hull Breacher. He did nothing wrong. Free Hull Breacher.
Right? Like it's just like the second you can punish people adequately and get rewarded adequately, the card it becomes unbalanced. I think Hull Breacher is fine if you take away Flash. Right? Like that then it's no longer like wheel Flash, no cards for you, lots of mana for me, and I get 7 new cards. But Notion Thief still exists. I don't see Notion Thief being played nearly enough. Especially now. If I were to make a deck, it would be on Notion Thief for sure. 100%. I'm with you on this.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. And everybody wants to ban Rhystic Study is the other thing. Everyone wants to ban Rhystic Study. Personally, I don't think you need to. I think I would love to see them. I'm on record saying this a million times, but I would ban Born Upon a Wind.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just to take the flash, wait for the end of the game to do everything, play pattern down just a notch. It doesn't have to be turned off completely, but right now it's just too common. All right, so just take it down a notch.
Yeah. There's a lot of cards that say, "Hey, I can now win when I wasn't supposed to be able to win before." I don't know if I'd ban Born Upon a Wind. I'd probably be more incentivized to find or get cards printed that can help deal with Born Upon a Wind. I'm not saying counterspell. Maybe there's like spells can only be cast at sorcery speed for the end until the end of the turn, something like that. Like just no, you can't do what you want to do, bud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need like I was saying you need like a split second symmetrical silence. That's what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
1/1. That players can't cast spells this turn.
Does that not exist?
No, not split second.
Oh, not a split second. No, you're right. Yeah. I also need a split second humility. That's what I would love to see.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's pretty good. Or a split second end the turn.
Oh, that would be just so nice.
Wouldn't that be great? That'd be great.
Split second.
Even better, put it on like a land as a channel ability.
Like it's gonna be like 7 white. Like this.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, but I don't really know what the answers are. Honestly, I don't know how to solve the problem because people don't want to lose. Like a lot of people talk about changing the culture and saying, "Hey, you should try to win. Why are you taking draws? Just win instead." But it's a really hard sell to tell someone, "Hey, lose the game instead of a draw," because nobody wants to lose games.
Nobody does. A card that I think people should be running that they don't, and I don't even think anyone will listen to what I'm saying about this, but I think people should be on Whirlwind Denial. Just for you run the card only for tournaments and only for that last turn in the tournament. Massive stack. Can you throw Whirlwind Denial on the stack? What? Yeah. Those Ristic studies. That one trigger you wanted to. All of it go away.
But you know what? You know what happens now is you cast that spell, and the stack just continues above it. It just gets so crazy. And that's what happened. One of the games I won, I had the Fairy Mastermind, Smothering Tithe, Training Grounds combo going. So I had everyone drawing cards, and I was making treasures to keep going. And one dude finally goes and casts I forget what the card is, but it's a green spell that destroy all enchantments. Instant cast, destroy all enchantments. It's like green and 1 or green and 2, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. Anyway, activate Fairy Mastermind.
Yeah. Anyway,
let's keep going.
Yeah. I know you're trying to do what you're trying to do, and I respect
it's
the
great.
old school
it's
tech,
great. That's a cool card. It's never going to resolve because we got more to do. Yeah.
Split second is really good.
That's what we need.
Really
we need more
good.
split second cards that actually do good things, like other than Angel's Grace.
Yeah. Right now, the deck that I'm working on actively, really hard, wants to win through split second.
Is it Hashiton?
No, it's not Hashiton.
Okay,
it's Zimone Mystery Unraveler.
Oh, dude, I love it. Love it.
Yeah,
love it. You got to show me the list later.
Yeah, we can go over that. It's pretty nuts, dude.
Yeah, awesome. You kind of share the list with people? Are they allowed to see it, or is it a secret?
Well, it's not done yet. It's just like
okay.
I have 3 lists of 3 different things that I want to like try and fine tune. I think the biggest thing is that people don't lean into Zimone's ability enough. So like, here's an effect that you didn't know about probably. Battles, when they have no counters on them, they transform. So if you manifest a battle with Zimone's ability, and then you flip it face up, it has no counters on it, so it flips to the backside of it immediately. There are some really crazy cards. Like there's some really crazy battles. If you get them flipped immediately, they're really, really good.
I just want to manifest Omniscience and then Ephemerate or whatever.
Omniscience is a cool card, but like for me, the big ones are there's a lot of combos that you can use. Like Ashaya is a really good example. Like Ashaya turns all your manifest creatures into forests, right? So they flip immediately.
Oh my god! Right?
Yeah, right. And then like there's a card Yadara says whenever non-token creatures, remember manifest creatures are not tokens, they're actual cards.
Right.
So whenever a manifest creature dies, or whenever non-token creature dies, return that creature to the battlefield as a forest, face down. So then
It's flicker, you get like,
not even flicker, you just get a creature that when it turns face up, it's a creature that can sacrifice itself and do damage. So like Ticking Gnomes says, sacrifice this creature, deal damage with Yadara, and Zimone, you can just sack it, deal damage, have it come back as a forest, flip face up because of Zimone, sack it, and that creates like an infinite loop.
Oh, damage. Infinite loop. Ping everyone immediately.
Ping everyone down.
Hot. That's hot. I like it. I like it. Dude, I like
welcome
it.
to my world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. So what's next for you, man? What do you got coming up? What's the next project?
Good question. Probably developing the Fishbowl, honestly. The big thing is we're going to do like a recap of all the things that we did that we think was done well, things that we think we can improve on. For us, this Fishbowl we think went really well. We would love to have a stream on the next one. We would love to have a floor streamer as well, like someone who's just like walking around asking questions. The artists made a lot of money at this event, and so we think that might push more artists to be more willing to work with us. Artists that we reached out to were totally willing to work with us. It just was a scheduling thing. But, we loved what they did. We think that we missed the mark when it came to selling playmats. We sold out in like within the first 100 players. Like I think literally the first 100 players who registered bought playmats and we were sold out. So we could probably order more, and there's that would be good. But outside of those things, I think that I think that the Fishbowl ran really smoothly. We were able to run. We actually had a legacy event happen at the Fishbowl that sold out. We didn't think that was going to happen, and then we were able to run 4 redemption events all on day 2. So I think it went really well. I was really excited about all the players. Everyone had a really good positive attitude. I didn't see anyone really crash out or anything like that, which I was really stoked to see.
Yeah, there was no drama. Everyone was very chill. It was a good time.
Yeah, really, really good.
Well, man, thank you so much for doing this with me tonight. I really appreciate it, dude. Always great talking to you. Get a chance to play more next time, I hope.
Yes.
But I'll take what I can get. And, if you guys listening like this, check out the links below for all the stuff that Hire's got going on. Subscribe to this channel. It helps a lot. And Hire, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. You're awesome.
Yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks everyone for listening.
Peace.